Welcome to 5 Minute Fridays. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to talk about spring planting. While spring is a great time to be planting, there are some thoughts that I'd like to throw out on when to do some of that spring planting. Our average last frost date is April 15th here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and you might, if I look it up, I might see the 10th or the 20th or whatever. I've just always called it April 15th. So I have to be thinking about marginal things or things that came out of a greenhouse or tropical things. I definitely want to plant beyond that April 15th time frame. So my vegetable garden, my annuals, there's a lot of things that are going to go after that April 15th time frame for sure. And even at April 15th, I need to be looking at the 10-day forecast and just making sure there's not a, because if you have a night on your 10-day forecast near your last frost date and it's like 34 or 35 on there, there's going to be pockets that are going to drop to 32 that are going to get frost and going to get freezes for sure if it's even close to that. Temperature really drops very quickly if you have dry air at night in the spring, pretty quickly. So over on the weekly garden planner, this is one of the things we talk quite a bit about. We're at March 15th as I'm filming this. The deep south is probably at their kind of frost-free date. You can think about buying hanging baskets and putting out your annuals and putting out your vegetable garden. Some of you probably already have in Louisiana and Texas and some other places. Here we're about mid-April, later April, as you go further up in the country. But as you go shopping, you're going to see things that don't seem like they're properly timed to what you have going on in your garden. So we went and we bought several things. We've got a whole big group here for the new native garden project. If you're following along with the HortTube channel, the native garden is getting lots of plants. Super excited about one of them, two or three of them over here that we'll be talking about in upcoming videos. Everything in this group pretty much is right on time with where it should be. So I'm going to go ahead and be sinking this stuff in the ground. Went and bought a few perennials for the main garden over here, and this catmint is in full bloom, okay? And it's March 15th. So my other one or two that are in the ground out here are still under the ground or just waking up. So this is a clue that this thing's not going to go in the ground. I'm not saying don't buy it. I'm just saying that you want to probably keep this thing mobile, be able to bring it in and out of the house or in and out of a garage for the next few weeks. So it was one that I wanted. It's a really compact growing, vigorous variety that we can plant here, use as a ground cover. We were up at the Pine Knot farm sale, and they had a big fern selection, but they were in a greenhouse. It was a heated greenhouse. Ferns have new growth on them. And so this is another thing I'm just kind of holding until that April 15th time frame and looking at the weather to make sure that time has passed. When you go into the places now, you're going to see, hanging baskets showing up 3 weeks before your average last frost date. So go over to Google, put in your city or your zip code or whatever, find out what your average last frost date is, and then go plant shopping and have fun. But the plants you bring home to plant, make sure they're kind of looking like the other plants around you in the area. This river birch is asleep. It should be asleep. It's the other river birches that are in the ground here are asleep. It's thinking about waking up. I mean, it is March, and so it's thinking about getting some new growth on it. I can tell already how much more pliable it's become, and I can see a little bit the buds swelling on it. That's right in line with everything else here, so I can sink that in the ground. As opposed to over here, we were down in Florida, and we were gifted a pomegranate, and this pomegranate is reputedly very cold hardy and produces lots of fruit, but since we brought it back from Florida, it was already waking up. So my pomegranate in the ground over there is very asleep. So if I buy this plant and bring it home and it's already leafed out in March 15th, I'm thinking that thing came from somewhere deeper in the south. And I'm still going to buy it, but I'm going to wait till April 15th to put it out. Or I can plant it in the ground now and be prepared to cover it. So I would have to throw a sheet or something like that over it if it was going to drop back down into the low 30s, something like that. Here's a pepper that I brought back from Florida. And a lot of you may not know peppers are actually perennial plants. This one is an interesting pepper that I wanted. What we'll have to do with this is probably container plant it, and then bring it in the house in the wintertime, or take cuttings on it or something like that, or get the seed from the peppers themselves. But obviously, if I put a pepper plant in the ground in Raleigh, North Carolina on March 15th, we're gonna get another frost that could potentially just kill this plant. This plant doesn't really like temperatures below 50. So that's what I'm thinking through. If you're looking at plants, shopping for plants, and you get a leafy evergreen plant that seems to have 4 inches of new growth on it, and it's a month before your average last frost date, if it's something you want, I would go ahead and buy it, just because you may not run into it again when you're ready to purchase it, when it's time to plant. But be prepared to just bring it in and out for a few weeks and wait for that frost date to pass. Because you're going to be stressing the plants. I mean, any of this planting that we're doing, me taking one of these plants out of these containers, this Farfugium, which has tons of new growth on it, I'm not going to plant until April 15th. It also has tons of roots on it. Okay, so when I pull this thing out of the pot, I'm going to have to break these roots up a bit, okay, to get it going out, out into the soil and not keep wrapping around itself. When I do that process, I'm stressing this plant. So I'm going to stress the plant, pulling it out of the container and planting it. Then I don't want to double down on that and have a frost or a freeze knock the thing halfway back. That double stressing is not going to be beneficial for it. But again, I certainly don't blame retailers for wanting to get the season started. It's not easy in the garden center business. Fall was poor for a lot of retailers across the country in the plant business, and then November, December, January, February, you're waiting to make some money. So I don't blame them sometimes for taking, people get excited, right? And you're there at the store and it's March 22nd and it's 75 degrees outside. How could anything go wrong? But it does. I've been doing this for long enough to know that there's been very few Aprils in my 39 years in this business where we didn't get a night that was scary in my nursery business or my garden center business or my home garden, where I had done something too early, or something had woken up way too early, or something was just out of timing. So that's what I wanted to make a video about. Just go grab them, grab your dahlias, grab your tropical bulbs, grab your, the things that you're wanting to put in. If it's, one of these perennials that's already in full flower on a table, grab them, bring them home. Just don't put them in the ground until that average last frost date, and then even be careful around that. It's the average last frost date. It's not my absolute last frost date. It's the average over a long period of time. And so April 15th is the middle of the average last frost, not the actual last frost. So keep that in mind. But if it's right in line with where everything should be, it's likely that either the garden center carried it through the winter at their own place, and so it's right in line with everything in your area, or they bought it from a local nursery. And go ahead and get those things in the ground. Because again, the further from summer you plant something, the less maintenance you'll have to do on it during that first summer in the ground. So that's the kind of things to be on the lookout for this time of year. Get out, shop. It's fun. Shopping for plants is the best part of gardening. It is literally the #1 part of gardening. But be careful, over the next month or so as you make sure that you don't waste that money ultimately buying those plants. So thank you guys so much for following along. The weekly garden planner is $50 off for the rest of the month of March. So I think we have about 2 weeks left on that sale if you're interested in it. And thanks for following along.